recent video, Timothy Brown of a renowned practice brokerage highlighted that the first time the importance of business and marketing education for dentists was highlighted was in a book 100 years ago. 100 years down the road, nothing much has really changed, except that organizations like Domican and individuals like Sharky have taken the initiative to bring marketing education to dentistry here in Toronto. And this is the second year that Sharky and Jack have partnered to hold a marketing conference in Toronto. And first of all, a big, huge thank you to you both for making that happen. And first, could you please tell our viewers how did this come about?
Well, Sharky, you're the one that started it with me.
Yeah.
Tell them what we did.
The first one, so I was following Jack and all the stuff he's been doing for the last few years. And when we did the first marketing conference, we want him on board because we just believe his philosophy and what he stands for. That was the first one, and that was such a big success. University of Toronto wanted for us to organize another event similar to what we did with the Dental Marketing Conference, and at that point we had to bring Jack back. So that's how it happened.
Jack, I was a witness to that first event, and I can vouch for how great and wonderful it was, which is why I'm back here this time.
Thank you.
How are you feeling about putting this together here in Canada?
I was really excited when Sharky got a hold of me to do it again because, first of all, I love coming to Toronto. Anytime I get a chance to come to Toronto, I'm going to do it. So, so I love coming here. And the thing that we did about a year ago or so, it's been probably almost a year when I was here last?
Like 8-10 months maybe?
Was it?
Yeah.
I noticed that there really was a lot of interest, that people were really curious about social media marketing in dental practices. And so I got great response, and I knew that coming back would be a lot of fun and it would be a great audience.
So speaking of the paradigm shift, as you mentioned a couple of times during your talk, the good old years, which was only 2 years back.
Right.
But in the last decade or so, how have things evolved, and especially with respect to what's going on in the States versus how you see Canada going?
Yeah. Well, it's always a different story whether you're talking, when you say the word decade in the same sentence as recently, that's like ancient, right? So there's very different things happening in the last 12 to 18 months to 2 years as a decade ago. And what we're seeing is the prevalence of what's called paid social now. That even though accounts are free, sometimes distributing content is no longer a non-paid model. That to really get traction, you have to consider spending some money on paid social. So I think that's one of the biggest differences that's come recently.
So, of course, Sharky, you're into one aspect of marketing. You know, marketing has so many aspects. How do you see the evolution of the understanding that dentists have? And as I mentioned, the first time this was brought up was 100 years ago. But do we really think that we're doing justice to that understanding?
I think so.
How it's changed? I think, especially in Canada, dentistry has changed. Before, they didn't need to advertise, they didn't need to market. But now, because of the competition, they have to. And that's actually a benefit for the consumer. Now they get to watch video, they get to go on the social media to really feel which clinic is right for them. So at the end of the day, the consumer wins. And the practices that do come to this reality or do understand how to communicate their culture and communicate the staff to their patients or the clinics that's going to benefit from this new generation of how people not just make decisions about dentistry, but make decisions about pretty much everything.
Jack, you're a social media professor. Now, of course, when we talk about marketing, the marketing pie has so many things that we, at the end of the day, we call the marketing mix. So social media is just one avenue to do it.
Yeah, and there are still tactics that are effective in more traditional ways of marketing a dental practice. So I never preach that you only do social at the expense of considering other things that work. There's still certainly a play for strong search engine optimization work. It just is different than it was a couple of years ago. Some of the things that used to work in terms of more paid advertising and optimizing content for search are just different today. But there's still room for lots of traditional things. We have some practices that are still doing really well sending out tens of thousands of postcards. It's rare. It's more rare than it used to be, but in some markets it still works. So I think the important thing is not to stop doing the things that are working and only do social, but to use social as a way to support and supplement and enhance and spread some of the things that you're doing traditionally as well.
I'm sure that when you teach marketing and social media, it's more in a holistic and a general environment. Is there a specific reason you're inclined towards dentistry?
Well, like I mentioned in the talk, I study both enterprise level social media strategy, and of course all day I work with dental practices. And my belief is that dentistry perfectly aligns with effective social media because it's a relationship-based business. It means that you are face-to-face with people. They walk through your door. You have your hands in their mouth. You are face-to-face. You're knee-to-knee. You're toe-to-toe. Those kinds of relationship-based businesses do really well with social, as opposed to large brands that don't have a relationship. Even if you love their product, it doesn't mean they're effective with social because there's not a relationship there. And that's why I think it perfectly aligns with dentistry.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Sharky. And that is just scratching the surface, or tip of the iceberg, if you will, for dental marketing. For Dental News Canada, I'm Abbas Naqvi.